Hello guys, I'm back. Hope you're doing fine. This time I'm featuring a somewhat different gun than most of the dedicated builds and bizarre setups that I'm known for. This is a project that I've sort of had in the pipeline for quite some time. It's some may think actually doesn't look like any projects at all. But those who really are into sort of the more iconic AR historical setups will recognize that the absence of any specific setup is actually the setup of this gun. What do I mean? Well, to begin with, it's an original Colt for most of the gun, most of the parts. It's a Colt M4 lower. It was actually a full Colt gun, 16-inch. I had the barrel cut and reprofiled to 14.5-inch standard, as with the original Colt M4A1. I went full M4A1 also with some other parts, handguard, frontside post, stock, car stock, the really old, lightweight, profiled car stock, and then the carry handle. So what's the big deal? Some people may think, bro, AR-15, it's modular, I don't see almost any Picatinny rail, no forward grips, no lights, no lasers, no optics. What's up with that? It's a fair point. And it's not like I miss any of that in my collection. I have a couple of Mark 18s, Mod 0, Mod 1, whatever they're called, 416, MR223F, you name it. Like, if you're talking AR platforms, customizable, I check all of the boxes. Mostly in 10-inch configuration, because it's good suppressed, but that's about it. I don't need more, honestly. For this gun, I had specifically this setup in mind, and it's exactly as I wanted. And across time, I have met and talked to various people that run all sorts of AR-15s. You're going from Knights Armament setups with foldable stocks to lightweight, 16-inch, optimized, like long-distance optimized ARs. To any other sort of tactical, lightweight, whatnot, 300 blackout, 8-inch, integrally suppress. All sorts of flavors, all sorts of people, and nobody has something like this. Which I think is a pity, honestly, because the most juicy stuff is often overlooked. If you look back on those retro Colt advertisements, what do they have? You know, M81 woodland camouflage, load-bearing equipment, these old helmets, they're rocking M16A2 with the grenade launcher maybe. The Commandos, the cool guy with the stash, they rock the Commando versions, which is the M4A1 basically, if you're looking around the 90s probably, around that time. And I sort of have this retro nostalgia, if you can say so, but it does not go back that much in time, like to the Vietnam era. With the XM177, you know, there's been a lot of those which came out some time ago, like from Troy, from Colt. You know, they were all rocking the old Vietnam looks on their guns. But yeah, I think it's almost too easy to buy one of those off the shelf. This one was more of a, you know, where you had to specifically source the parts. And the most difficult, of course, was the lower. Okay, getting a roll-marked M4 lower is kind of hard. Mostly you have to buy a complete gun and then work your way out from that one. I'm not saying that doing something like this is extremely hard. I think there's probably guns that are harder to clone, like the Mod 0, getting the Knights Armament handguard, or some of the attachments for it. But this one specifically is not that hard, but it's really, I think that the cool factor is there because everyone thinks that it's so out of the box and so standard. They didn't even invest some time into really looking a bit beyond, okay? Because a normal 14.5-inch, if at all, maybe with the pinned flash guard, is already longer than 14.5-inch like in the military. So the barrel is already not so so evident. Stock. It comes with the newer stock, which for me doesn't look cool at all. It looks also a bit slightly bigger. I like this one better. Mostly it comes with some shitty backup iron sights, or with no iron sights at all. And the carry handle is just so iconic, and the one from the M4A1 is also so special. So I'm like, at some point when I saw this Colt for sale, I was like, yeah, I already have some mod 0, like the mod 0, the mod 1. What else do I miss? Actually nothing. There was really nothing that I was fancying in terms of AR beyond the ones that I had. I think that I'm good with what I have. But then at some point I was like, like a genuine 14.5-inch with the cardstock and the carry handle and the good old-fashioned handguard, the fat one. I think that's something that can fit the collection. And it even has a purpose. The gun is very light. It's lightweight. It's very compact. It still has a somewhat long barrel, more than 10.4 or 10.3 inches. So in theory, at the range, with a properly set up rear sight, you can do some damage, okay? You can be dangerous with this one. Plus, you got all of the cool factor, unfiltered, retro cool factor, and this is what I'm mostly into. At some point throughout the history of this platform, I thought, I could actually do something to keep the cool factor, but make it a bit more effective. So I sourced a Matek rear sight. And I thought I would pair that one maybe with an ACOG or something else. Ultimately, I did not feel like investing a lot into an ACOG that I would never use. But I still have the Matek sight. But I found that it takes away something from the looks. You can probably tell it looks really iconic if you look a bit older movies. Special forces portrayed in Hollywood, maybe rocking this gun with a sling and just doing some damage with infinite ammo. It's just so cool. It's a bit trashy, I know, but it feels like an overlooked piece of history, because when people look back now in the history of the AR-15, they sort of start from the Vietnam era, M16 Vietnam version, 3-prong maybe, flash hider. There's the whole bandwagon on the forward assist, and some did have it, some did not have it. Then they transition over to the XM177, the Colt Commando, whatever you want to call it. Also there, a lot of cloning, a lot of dedicated parts, even on Brownells. And then maybe some go to the M16A2, also very iconic. The new handguard and the updated rear sight. That one is also, there's been some emphasis on building clones on that platform. And then there's pretty much nothing until we start going into the more specialized editions like the Mark 18 kind of stuff. There's like a vacuum around the 90s, and that's exactly when this gun came to life. Next to the M16A2, same style handguard, shorter platform, but already not 11-inch or 10-inch, 14.5, when they recognize that 14.5 is best for this caliber. But still before the latest refinements in terms of also the newer stock, so blending in some of the more older stuff from Vietnam and the newer findings in terms of ballistics for the barrel. And there you have it. I think it's really cool. I like to shoot it quite a lot, even suppressed. It's not bad. The trigger is a bit shit, but I can live with that. My philosophy on the triggers is I don't like to spend $500-600 on a Geissele or any super enhanced triggers, because I think if you're a good shooter with any trigger that comes across your gun, you can only get better with refined triggers. So I like to be good or competitive, let's say, with out-of-the-box triggers, and know that it can only get better, as opposed to being good with really fancy triggers and in a situation where you have to pick something up that you're not used to, you're gonna suck totally and you're just gonna be hilarious. So that's my philosophy. I'm not a competitive shooter by any means, but I've done my fair share of shooting privately and with the government, and I kind of know how to hit something at 300 meters with iron sights. That being said, I have to say that I've tried a lot of stock triggers. This one was by far one of the worst that I've ever tried. Actually, let me think about it. Yeah, with the exception of the FAMAS, which is shit, but understandably shit because it's a bullpup. So with the exception of the non-bullpup triggers, with that exception, this was probably out of the box the worst that I ever tried. The G36 is definitely really bad, but it's not really bad because it's mechanically intended to be like it is. So it's not bad because it's just shit. It was mechanically meant to be like this. It doesn't mean that I like it. I still find that it's shit, but at least it fulfills entirely the purpose that it was designed. The AR-15, I've shot some other guns that have mil-spec or sort of AR-15 type triggers, and they are just better. So this one was probably just sourced from China or some other OEM manufacturer, like without a label, and then put into the latest Colt guns that are made a little bit cheap. This one is especially bad. Now I have to say that this one really gives me a hard time. It feels really like it's got sand in it. So I'm considering where to buy something else, just because I tend to swap the lowers quite often and I like to shoot it, and it's giving me a hard time. But still, the philosophy is the same. So even if I buy a new trigger, it's not going to be a Geiser, it's going to be something maybe a 2-stage, a bit more refined, but nothing too fancy. Other than that, the gun feels really great. I like to shoot it a lot. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you like this configuration, if you would change something. If you're one of the guys that started shooting with airsoft like I did when I was young, you could probably remember that this one came out from Tokyo Marui. It was like a Japanese manufacturer, and I still have some memories. Friends of mine had it. And it was so cool. I remember when I was young, you know, it was impossible, like in the early 2000s. It was just impossible to get your hands on an M4, on an AR-15. Back then in the early 2000s in Europe, I don't know, I was living in Italy back then. It was just impossible. You could, like, I did not, like, internet was not as it is today. There was no social medias of today back then. So it was impossible to, like, looking up a range, going there shooting when you were like, I don't know, 16, 15, it was just unimaginable. So you could only see this in movies, on video games, the graphics of the time, and then if you bought an airsoft replica. So that was the only way you could have something 3D in your hands that probably looked like a real gun. And I remember having this thing in my hand in exactly this configuration, and I was like, yeah, this is some awesome shit. And fast forward a lot of years, and I was able to replicate this in real life, which I'm very glad that I had the chance to, and I'm happy that it's in my collection. If you have that nostalgia airsoft, go ahead and click the subscribe button. It drives a lot of purchases, and I'm sure it does with everyone. At the end, men are just grown-up kids, and that's exactly what we are. Thanks a lot for your time, for watching. Wish you a nice day or evening, regardless where you are, and see you next time.